Hey Foreverlies, it is Jess and Maddie in this video. And today, this video is gonna be serious. Seriously stupid because I don't know how to be serious. I just filmed like a funny, carefree Q&A, and now I am going on to my expelled story time. I did get expelled when I was in 8th grade. This is gonna be a bumpy ride. So buckle up your seatbelts, grab some popcorn, grab some water, because we're healthy girls around here. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with a bit of a backstory. My whole life I have struggled with anxiety. Like literally since the day I was born, I have had anxiety. It's pretty much how that works. So, and it really hit me with school. I had separation anxiety, so it was hard for me to go away from my mom. I remember as a kid, when I would get ready for school, I would just get sick. Like, I would throw up, I would have diarrhea just from anxiety because it affected my body so much. And I remember my mom dropping me off for school in like kindergarten, 1st grade. I would just run back to the car crying. Even in 6th grade, I would do that. I would just run back to the car, like, because my mom would drop me off in the line. I would just run back to the car crying because I hated going to school. It just gave me so much anxiety. I had panic attacks since 2nd grade. I was mistreated pretty badly because of my panic attacks. Schools would think I was misbehaving. So just imagine 3rd grade Maddie going to the office crying because she's having a panic attack, anxiety attack, whatever you want to call it. And I say I can't be in class right now, I just need to like sit somewhere. Just imagine little Maddie, probably like 4 feet tall, being dragged by a huge office aide back to class, kicking and screaming because my anxiety was so bad. And that's where I kind of started acting out, like after 3rd grade probably. Because I had all these authority figures that I'm supposed to like look up to, like they're supposed to guide me, like they are shaping my future, they're teaching me school. So I just got a lot, I guess, just a lot of trouble from teachers and authority figures for my anxiety at school. I would go into the principal's office because I would get in trouble for not going back to class. And I would just tell her, hey, I can't be in class right now. And I honestly, at the time, I didn't know why I couldn't be in class. I didn't know I had anxiety when I was in 3rd grade. I didn't know what to say. I just remember I'd be shaking, I'd be crying. I remember I used to just go into the room and she would just give me a bag to throw up in because my anxiety would make me throw up. This is really bringing back the feels. I was so scared as a kid growing up in this place. I had just moved. That's what triggered the anxiety attacks to start. I was in a new place, new school. I didn't know anybody. I also did not have eyelashes because of trichotillomania. I had yanked them all out. I had bald spots on my head. And I was scared. I was terrified. And my anxiety did not help that. Like any kid would be scared, but with my anxiety, I was even more scared than a normal kid would be because it would manifest as anxiety attacks. We finally found out I had anxiety in 3rd grade, I believe. We just started counseling at first, and it didn't help. They would tell me all these coping mechanisms. They're like, okay, just take deep breaths. I'm like, that's not gonna work because my anxiety was so severe that if I were to just sit down and take deep breaths, that wouldn't do anything for me. I mean, maybe it'll help a little bit, but it's not gonna cure a freaking anxiety attack. So I kept in therapy, and eventually the therapy wasn't working. I was still acting out at school, acting out. I was going to the office basically and saying, hey, I can't be here. I would go to the nurse's office and pretend to be sick because I was having anxiety. All the nurses would hate me. Like, they'd get so mad when I would go into the nurse's office because I would just tell them I'm sick. I would even, like, at first, you know how I like threw up from anxiety? I would just go in there, throw up, they'd send me home. So yeah. I also had emetophobia, which is the fear of other people throwing up. I actually remember once when I was in 4th grade, I believe, someone threw up in class. And that, I mean, I have emetophobia. Even if somebody says they need to go to the nurse's office when they're in class, I just remember kids would raise their hand, say, hey, can I go to the nurse's office? My stomach hurts. I would just run out of the room because I was terrified. I would kind of like, I would lose time as well. I would just have like blackouts almost, but I would still be like consciously doing things. I remember once I ran out of the classroom screaming like on the top of my lungs, and at the time I did not know I was screaming on the top of my lungs, because why would 4th grade boy crazy Maddie scream on the top of her lungs running down the hallway of school? It's embarrassing. But I didn't find out I was screaming on the top of my lungs until somebody told me, and that the only reason that happened is because someone threw up in class. So I was always kind of viewed as a weird kid because I had these outbursts, and honestly I didn't know. I thought maybe, do I have autism? I don't. But it was just anxiety, just crazy bad anxiety. So eventually they started me on medicine. In 4th grade, they started me on medicine. I don't know if I already said that. Just stories kind of like all over the place. It's really hard to recall these memories because these are the very memories that I push the deepest, darkest corner of my mind so I don't remember them. They started me on medication. I think it was when I had lived in Arizona. They diagnosed me with ADHD, anxiety, trichotillomania, and yeah, ADHD, anxiety, trichotillomania. So they started me on medication for anxiety. It didn't work. Surprise, surprise. My mom was super scared to start me on medication, but that's actually what ended up helping me the most in the long run. Eventually, they started me on something called Prozac, and that is what helped me the most. I still take it to this day, but that is what helped me through elementary school. God, that's so crazy to even fathom. Elementary school, literally this 9-10-year-old was on medication for anxiety. It's crazy to think about. So I ended up moving back to Texas. My anxiety attacks were still bad. They would just send me to the ISS room when I would have anxiety attacks because, I mean, they weren't equipped to deal with a student who's having anxiety attacks all the time, you know? Schools aren't equipped for that. They're just equipped to teach. They aren't equipped to help with students with mental health issues. So they would just send me to the ISS room, and I remember I would just draw pictures, I would write in my journal, I would write poetry. And that's kind of when poetry became an escape for me. It's just kind of like an escape from reality type thing for me. And I would just write about how I feel, transfer how I feel onto that paper, never look at it again. Just kind of crumple up my feelings, throw them in the trash once they're transferred onto that paper. So we ended up moving back to Texas. When my anxiety attacks started bad, we were in Arizona. So we moved back to Texas, and they continued. The teachers there did not know I had anxiety attacks. So we kind of like came into this school. My mom talked to the teachers, and they were like, they've never dealt with that before. So, sorry, I'm just trying to like recall everything. So I come into the school, and the anxiety attacks continue. They were actually worse at this school than the last school, because at the school I was at before, instead of going to recess, which recess was something that triggered my anxiety, because kids would like get overheated and throw up. God, I was such a weird kid. I wasn't a weird kid, I was just a troubled kid. At recess, kids would get overheated and throw up, and that scared me. So at my old school, they made an arrangement to where I didn't have to go to recess. I just got to go help the art teacher with the kindergarten class, and I loved that. That art was also something that helped me escape. And I got to teach these kindergartners about art, and moving made it different to where I was out at recess with all these rambunctious 4th graders, because I was in 4th grade at the time. I moved in the middle of my 4th grade year. So it wasn't great for me. I would just kind of like sit down. I remember there was this brick wall by the door that I would always just kind of sit at. I mean, sometimes I would go play with friends, but most of the time I was at that brick wall. So, I mean, at this school, I wanted like a fresh start. I didn't want them to know that I was like super like anxious. I still didn't have eyelashes, so that had to be a giveaway of something. But I started getting my anxiety attacks at that school, and when they started, I wouldn't go to the office per se. I would just go to the nurse's office and say, hey, I'm having an anxiety attack. I need to call my mom. And obviously they would say, no, this isn't something that has to do with your medical needs. Like, this is for the nurse. This is for like if you scrape your knee or if you're sick. This isn't for if you want to call home to your mommy. So I ended up starting to skip class a lot. I would just kind of like wander around the school. I actually did this quite a bit in 4th grade at my last school too. So I would just start to skip class, and eventually I started getting in trouble because the way I had been treated by authority figures kind of made me lose respect. And I mean, even as a little 4th grader, I believed in mutual respect. If you're nice to me, I'll be nice to you. But the way so many people who were in a figure of authority supposed to be taking care of me treated me, it just made me hate authority. So I would be bad whenever I could. In 5th, 6th grade, I haven't even got to 6th grade actually, but in 5th grade I had a teacher I really liked, but I still would have those anxiety attacks. I would just go to the ISS room. The principal would yell at me, tell me to go back to class. They would never let me call my mom. They would keep me after school for detention. They would just keep me in that little room with nothing but a pen and paper. And I just remember spending so much time in that little room. So much time. And it was difficult just to be alone, knowing that I'm going through something. So I would just continue to act out until they would call my mom to come pick me up. I'd say about every day, or at least every other day, my mom would get a phone call from the school saying that I'm acting out or I'm having anxiety and I need to go home, or I would even get suspended for having anxiety attacks because they refused to give me the proper care that I needed for my mental health. So I would just be in the room crying. I remember there was this assistant principal that was so convinced I was just this bad kid. And I would just be crying to her and I would say, hey, I'm having anxiety. I'm having an anxiety attack. I can't just sit in this classroom full of kids that are causing the anxiety attack. So it was hard to be viewed as a delinquent for having anxiety. I probably need to fast forward a little bit, but the gist of it is I spent a lot of my time in elementary school crying, sitting at an ISS desk, calling home to my mom, getting suspended, all for anxiety. So, middle school. I was finally moving on to middle school, and I was really excited. I mean, one of the things that gave me anxiety in elementary school is the prolonged periods of sitting at a desk with the same people. And I knew I had more periods, and I got to see more people in middle school, so I was excited for that. At first, I did fine. I mean, it was pretty good. But about every week, I would have an anxiety attack. And I would either go to the nurse's office, or In middle school, there's a counselor's office. So I would see the school counselor a lot. And they wouldn't really do much for me, just to be honest. They would just tell me, it's okay, just go back to class, you're gonna be fine. They would just talk to me, and it didn't really help. So I started getting in trouble because I would tell the counselor, hey, I can't go back to class right now. You know, I'm not at the state to where that's even an option for me. I just need to sit here and collect myself for a minute. And I started getting in trouble. There was this school principal, Mr. Gatlin, and right off the bat, he treated my anxiety as a misbehavior. So I kind of looked at him and I didn't like him. He was the one I acted out most towards because I blamed him for not having the right equipment to deal with what I'm feeling, you know? Because when anxiety is so common among kids, you've got to have at least something to deal with it because kids are having this. So it goes on throughout middle school. 6th grade year, I ended up getting bullied and I fell into depression. I was diagnosed with depression. I started going to PHP, which is an outpatient program it's basically staying at a psychiatric hospital, psychiatric hospital, but just during school hours. So instead of going to school, I would just go to the psych ward for a while. Nothing would really help with my anxiety. In 7th grade, I acted out still. I was constantly being suspended, expelled. Not expelled. I was constantly being suspended, given detention, just sitting in ISS all day because of my anxiety. And because I had brought like this measure of misbehavior to the school, I was a target. At my school, I was dress coded all the time. Like, we weren't allowed to wear leggings. And I had a pair of sweatpants that resembled leggings that I would wear all the time. And every time I would get dress coded. And this is where my little feminist trip started. I thought I was being objectified. I was a 12-year-old girl. And I was being told I can't sit in class because boys are being distracted by my body. I thought it was ridiculous to tell a 12-year-old girl that, especially being a male principal. I became a target for being dress coded. And I remember once, I think it was 7th grade, I was kind of over it. And I would be dress coded all the time. And all the teachers knew me, not in a good way though. So I remember I had an off-the-shoulder shirt because that was a trend. I didn't know it was out of dress code. So this lunch lady comes up to me and she's like, "Excuse me, miss, your shirt's out of dress code. You need to go to the office." And this is at the point where I just started to rebel. And she got one of the assistant principals to come with me and walk me up to the office. And I remember the whole way down there, like, little anxiety-ridden me was using anger as a coping mechanism. Super unhealthy. But I remember just asking the boys in the hallway, like, just stopping them as we were walking to the principal's office. I'd say, "Excuse me, you see my shoulder right here. Is this turning you on? Are you distracted from your learning by this? I mean, are you able to even function in school? Am I giving you a boner with my bare shoulders?" And I just remember pulling crap like that all the time. And I would just kind of like blatantly disrespect authority. But at the same time, I felt really disrespected by them as well because they were treating me like less than a person. And I just remember becoming a huge activist for anxiety and feminism and just everything I was going through. I just became an activist. So whenever I would be sent to the office for being dress coded, I would say, "Hey, you're sexualizing me. I am a young girl. I mean, is it your problem? Like, are you the one getting turned on by the holes in my jeans?" So I just became very misbehaved. I would skip class a ton because I remember let's fast forward to 8th grade. There was this one period that I was in orchestra. I played the violin. And the ticking of the metronome started messing with my head a little bit. Like, it just made me feel sick. It would give me really bad anxiety. So I remember telling my teacher, hey, I need to be switched out of this class. And I went to the school counselor, I filled out a form, and they're like, hey, we can't switch you. And I said, this isn't a matter of like me wanting to drop out of orchestra, this is a matter of my mental health. So they don't switch me. I even get my mom to go up there. She explains to them that this is something that needs to happen in order for me to stay in the right mindset. And they still don't switch me. So every day during that period, there was this little place called the Hub. I would just sit there. Teachers would come up to me. I remember almost every day the assistant principals would come in there, say, Maddie, why aren't you in orchestra? I said, switch me out. I mean, like, what else am I supposed to do? They would just literally sit you there the whole time. They're like, you need to go to ISS. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm staying right here until my next period. Do you really want to interfere with my learning? I mean, I came here to learn. I'm still going to do that. I just don't want to go have an anxiety attack right now. Like, my bad. Sorry, this is really hard for me to talk about. I try to totally shove this part of my life out. So, basically, you can probably see that I was misbehaved. Just in a way that I was being blamed for my anxiety attacks, so I got mad. Like, any reasonable person would get mad about that. So, back to my activism, just for like what's right. I saw this video of a kid being shoved in a closet, and at the time they said the kid had autism. And with an autistic little brother, I was like, oh my god, my brother's gonna go here. Is he gonna be treated like this? So I go up to the principal's office and I show him this video and I'm like, hey, I wanted to bring this to your attention. I didn't even come in there with bad intentions. I just came in to say, hey, this isn't right. I just wanted to let you know one of your teachers did this. He took my phone, deleted the video off of it, and said, don't show this to anybody else. I already had sent the video to my mom. He said, do you have any more copies of this? I said no, knowing that if he knew I had more copies, he would delete those as well. So I recovered the video from my mom's phone, and I told her, hey, they're not doing anything about this. This kid was shoved in a closet. They just want to keep their record upheld. So we posted it on Facebook, and it went viral. Not like viral like my video that I posted viral, but like I think 10,000 people saw it, which is a lot for us at the time. And people made an uproar about this. They were pissed that nothing was being done about this. And she told about how I had shown this to the principal and he told me to delete it. And after that, my mom and me got so many complaints to the school. Like, everybody was calling the front desk saying, hey, this guy needs to be fired. I became a huge primo target. Everything I did was just, like, it had to be perfect or I would be called down to the principal's office. And at this time, I was in a pretty good mental state. I mean, I would still have anxiety, but, I mean, it wasn't every day. It was probably a couple times a week, might have an anxiety attack. I remember in my science class, I would always break out in hives from anxiety. Don't know why, but yeah. But after that, I just became this huge target. I remember one day, I was almost done with my 8th grade year. I had a rip in my jeans. It was about right here on my thigh. And they gave me a piece of duct tape. They're like, hey, you need to cover this up. That's inappropriate. So I put the piece of duct tape over my jeans and it falls off. I mean, what do you think's gonna happen when you put something sticky to felt or whatever it's called, or jean material? It's gonna fall off. So it fell off and they called me down to the office. They're like, hey, you need to put more duct tape over this. And, you know, I could have just simply like put the duct tape over it and gone on with my day, but I just felt so objectified. So I said, no, I bought these jeans, they were expensive, I'm not going to put duct tape over them and ruin them. If you want to buy me a new pair, I'll put the duct tape over it, but if not, no. So So I could have just put the duct tape over the hole in my jeans. That wasn't bothering anybody. It was probably about maybe that big. I could have easily done that, but I didn't. I said, hey dude, I came here to learn. I didn't come here to be objectified and told that the hole in my jeans distracted boys and I didn't want to be sexualized, but here I am. And I am not going to put that over the hole in my jeans. I mean, I came here to learn. I'm going back to class. So I walked out of the principal's office without being dismissed, and I went back to class. I just sat in that class, and I remember the principal phoning up to my teacher saying, hey, Maddie needs to come down here. She said, hey, Maddie, go down to the principal's office. I said, no, that's interfering with my learning time. I will in passing period. So in passing period, no, actually it was my lunch period. So I went down to eat lunch, and of course, the principal meets me at the lunch table. I'm eating my food. He said, you need to come with me. I said, you can wait for me to eat. So I sat there, ate my food while he hovered over me. And after I was done, he said, you need to come with me to ISS. You have like a week's worth of ISS now since you've been disrespectful and haven't followed the rules. I don't remember how many days exactly the ISS was. I mean, sorry if I'm getting the facts wrong. But I just remember I was given ISS for a hole in my jeans, basically. So we went to the ISS room, and I just remember getting on my phone, just like Snapchatting people, going through Instagram, and he's like, hey, you need to give me my phone. I said, this is my personal property. I'm not giving you anything. It is my human right to have my personal property unless you have a warrant or a search warrant. So if you want to go get a warrant and search my phone, feel free, but until then, I am keeping my phone. And he said, there's going to be some bad consequences for you if you don't give me that phone, young lady. I said, alright, I mean, what are you going to do? Send me to jail for not giving him my phone, my personal belonging that they have deleted things off of before? And especially since, you know, I have anxiety. And after seeing the video of how they treated that one kid, I didn't want to be treated like that. I wanted to have my phone on me at all times, so if I needed to call somebody, I could. So I said, hey, no, I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm not giving you my phone. He just sat over me for about 10 minutes while I was just scrolling on my phone, said, you need to give me that. You need to give me that. And I made it very clear to him that I was not giving him my phone. So, I was texting my mom. I said, hey, this is going on. And at the time, she was on my side. She's like, you know what? I hate this school. They're treating you terrible here. I mean, don't give them your phone. Just, I'll come and get you. And, I remember she texted me and she said, you're being expelled. I'm like, are you kidding me? So apparently the principal called her and said that I am being expelled because I refused to cooperate with giving them my phone in ISS over having a hole in my jeans and not wanting to be objectified. And I mean, for someone who had been treated wrongly by authority my whole life, I felt it coming. I knew that this wasn't going to go my way. I was actually a few weeks pregnant when I got expelled. So yeah, my camera battery is running low. But basically, they said that I am being expelled from the school and I have to go to the school for bad kids. And I was very influential. And my mom said there is no way she is letting her daughter, who has anxiety, to go to this school with a bunch of kids who do drugs and get into actual trouble. She said there's no way. So they pulled me out of the school and we just did a homeschool program, basically. But yeah, if I were to ever enroll in school again, I would have to go through like 6 months of alternative school, which is apparently like really bad. And I don't want to do that. I don't feel like it was their place to expel me for anxiety. Maybe like refer me to a counselor or something. But there's a lot more I could have told today. There is a lot of things that happened to me in middle school, elementary school. A lot more that has to do with mental health rather than getting expelled. So I think that's gonna be it for this video. Don't be like me, don't get expelled. But if you are having anxiety, please talk to somebody and tell them what you're going through. And if it's at school, talk to your school counselor. They might not, it might seem stupid, I know, it probably is stupid. It's really hard to deal with mental illnesses within the public school system, but you can do it. Don't make bad choices. Don't rebel against authority. If anything, authority is your friend. As bad as they treat you, you're gonna have to get along with them so they can do what you need them to do, because they will go on a power trip and they will show you who's boss. So just, I mean, as bad as principals suck, respect them, and just, if you're going through something similar, stay strong. It always gets better. I am in a much better place now. Getting expelled helps that, you know? I wasn't in such a toxic environment anymore. So, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!